In this lab, we will examine the endocrine glands. First gland is the pituitary gland or hypophysis. This gland lies below the brain in a small cavity on the sphenoid bone. It is formed in the embryo partly from the developing brain as a cell called infundibulum, and partly from the developing oral cavity as a structure called Raskey's pouch. Because of its dual origin, this gland is composed of two glands: posterior neurohypophysis, anterior adenohypophysis. The posterior neurohypophysis consists of pars nervosae and infundibulum. Anterior adenohypophysis or anterior lobe consists of pars distalis, pars intermedia, and pars tuberalis. At higher magnification, we will examine the pars distalis, two groups of cells are found in this part of the pituitary gland: chromophils and chromophobes, depending on their affinities to the stain.
Okay. Yes. So.
Chromophils, at the tip of the pointer, we can see the acidophil, and this is basophil. Acidophil stain red, while the basophil stain purple or blue. Another group of cells called the chromophobe at the tip of the pointer, we can see the chromophobe stain weak with few or no cytoplasmic granules. These cells are a group of stem cells or undifferentiated progenitor cells. So the pars distalis has two groups of secretory cells: chromophils and chromophobes. Chromophils, two types of cells: acidophil and basophil. Chromophobe stain weak with few or no cytoplasmic granules. Between the secretory cells, we can see fenestrated capillaries. This is about the pars distalis. The second part of the anterior pituitary is the pars intermedia. This is pars intermedia, a thin region with rounded follicles or cysts. This is pars intermedia, thin region with colloid-filled follicles or cysts. Pars intermedia. This is pars distalis, pars intermedia, pars nervosa. This is another section in the pituitary gland. This is the pars intermedia. We can see the rounded structures called follicles or cysts filled with colloid. This is pars intermedia, located between pars distalis and pars nervosa. The posterior pituitary or neurohypophysis consists of the large pars nervosa. This is pars nervosa. It is composed of unmyelinated axons of large secretory neurons located in the supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei of the hypothalamus. The main component of this region is the presence of glial cells called pituicytes. These cells are called pituicytes that resemble astrocytes. Two hormones are synthesized in the hypothalamus, transported axonally into the pars nervosa, accumulate in a dilation, axonal dilation, called neurosecretory bodies or hearing bodies. At the tip of the pointer, we can see the hearing body. هي عبارة عن axonal dilation. The hormones accumulate in this structure. Hearing body. This is another one. هذا تعتبر characteristic feature of this region. تمام؟ فالcells هي pituicytes. This structure is the hearing body. انتبهوا هاي الأشياء هي المطلوبة منكم بالامتحان. Hearing body, axonal dilation, accumulates hormones. Pituicytes, modified astrocytes, راح أعيد السلايد على السريع. Pituitary glands can be divided into two glands: posterior neurohypophysis, anterior adenohypophysis. This is pars distalis with two groups of secretory cells اللي هي chromophils and chromophobe. الكروموفيلز تكون أما أسيدوفيل أو بيزوفيل اعتمادا على الصبغات. تمام؟ الصبغات اللي تصبغ الجرانيولز الموجودة بداخل السيتوبلازم. الأسيدوفيل تظهر لونها أحمر، البيزوفيل يكون لونها أزرق. الكروموفوب تكون فاتحة بدون لون لأنه ما تحتوي على جرانيولز. بالوسط we can see the pars intermedia تكون between pars distalis and pars nervosa عبارة عن follicles filled with acidophilic colloid. This is pars nervosa with pituicytes and hearing bodies. Second gland is the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland is located anterior and inferior to the larynx. It is covered with connective tissue capsule. This is the capsule. Connective tissue capsule. This is the parenchyma of the thyroid gland. The parenchyma of the thyroid gland is composed of millions of rounded epithelial thyroid follicles. These are thyroid follicles of various diameters. These are follicles, thyroid follicles. Each follicle has lining epithelium with central lumen densely filled with acidophilic colloids اللي هو عبارة عن thyroglobulin اللي هو يعتبر precursor for the active thyroid hormones. Acidophilic thyroglobulin or colloids. Lining epithelium range from squamous to cuboidal or locolaminar, depending on the activity of the gland. The cells of each follicle are called follicular cells or thyrocytes. Follicular cells or thyrocytes. Another type of endocrine cells, parafollicular cells or C cells. These cells are found within the basal lamina of the follicular epithelium, and they are also found in groups between the follicles. These are parafollicular cells or C cells. They are found in groups between the follicles of the thyroid. These are thyroid cells or thyrocytes, and this is the parafollicular cell or C cell. These cells secrete which hormone? Calcitonin. Thyroid follicles, each follicle has simple epithelium, central lumen with acidophilic colloid. These cells are called follicular cells or thyrocytes. In addition to these cells, we can see the parafollicular cells or C cells. These cells secrete calcitonin. This is lies section in the adrenal or suprarenal glands. Adrenal glands are third organs lying near the superior pulse of the kidney, embedded in the perirenal adipose tissue. This is the connective tissue capsule. The parenchyma of the adrenal cortex can be divided into two concentric regions, adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. This is adrenal cortex, and this is adrenal medulla. This is connective tissue capsule. Two concentric regions, adrenal cortex and reddish-brown adrenal medulla. The adrenal cortex also has three layers: zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, zona reticularis. Zona glomerulosa, comprising about 15% of the cortex, immediately inside the capsule, consists of rounded or arched cores of secretory cells. These cells are columnar or pyramidal in shape. Zona glomerulosa, immediately beneath or inside the capsule. The secretory cells are arranged in rounded or arched cores of cells with capillaries. Zona glomerulosa. هيدا تلاحظوها at higher magnification تكون بشكل rounded structures secretory cells of the zona glomerulosa مباشرة تحت الكبسول. This is the capsule and this is the zona glomerulosa. The second layer zona fasciculata. This is zona fasciculata. This is zona fasciculata. We can see long cords of secretory cells, 1 or 2 cell thick. These cells are large cells, each cell filled with lipid droplets, so these cells appear vacuolated in this slide. This is zona fasciculata. We can see long cords of secretory cells with 1 or 2 cell thick. These cells are polyhedral in shape with cytoplasm filled with lipid droplets. So these cells appear vacuolated. تلاحظوها cytoplasm يحتوي على vacuoles لذلك نسميه vacuolated during histological preparation. This is zona fasciculata. The innermost layer is the zona reticularis. We can see smaller cells in a network of irregular cords. تشوفوها تكون بشكل غير منتظم. This is zona reticularis, small cells with a few lipid droplets and in a network of irregular cords. And this is the adrenal medulla. We can see the cells are lightly staining cells. This is the adrenal medulla. راح أعيد the slides. This is the capsule, connective tissue capsule. The adrenal gland has 2 concentric regions. Adrenal cortex, this is the adrenal cortex, and adrenal medulla. The adrenal cortex also has 3 regions, zona glomerulosa, immediately inside or beneath the capsule. Zona fasciculata, we can see long cords of secretory cells. Zona reticularis, a regular network of cells, and adrenal medulla. Last gland is the pineal gland. Pineal gland is a small pine cone shaped structure. It is covered by connective tissue of the pyometer. The prominent and abundant secretory cells in this organ called pinealocytes. These are pinealocytes. The main characteristic feature of this slide or this organ is the presence of concretion of calcium and magnesium salt called brain sand. Basophilic structures. Concretion of calcium and magnesium salts called brain sand. And the cells are called pinealocytes. In addition to the pinealocytes, we can see the modified astrocyte found in the perivascular area or between the groups of the pinealocytes. Interstitial glial cells, which are modified astrocytes. عفوا بعد سلايد باراثايرويد gland أي باراثايرويد. شلونكم اللي تفهمتي؟ Glomerulosa casculata reticularis. No. This slide is section in the parathyroid gland. This is parathyroid gland. This gland is thyroid gland. This is parathyroid. They are full, small glands. The principal or chief cells are the predominant cell. These are the principal or chief cells. These cells has rounded nucleus with a slightly acidophilic cytoplasm, polygonal in shape, chief or principal cells. Polygonal with rounded nucleus and slightly acidophilic cytoplasm. Another type of cell found within this gland called oxyphil cells. These cells are larger than principal cells with very acidophilic cytoplasm. This is another one. oxyphil cells. عادة البرنسبل سيل شنو تفرز سكريت؟ باراثايرويد هرمون. الأوكسيفيل سيل فانكشن مالتها إذا أنتم حاضرين نظري تحتوي على اللو يعني ترى اللو levels of parathyroid hormone ويعتقد إن هي transitional derivative of principal cell. عادة يزداد عددها بالolder individuals. oxyphil cell وهذه principal or chief cells. All slides are stained by hematoxylin and eosin. هذه أي يعني عندنا سلايدات احنا typical تظهر يعني heavily acidophilic نميزها كلش يعني حمراء يعني تختلف. اي زي
Shut up.
fine.